Good morning. I am Haley Black, the co-founder of Inspirations Academy, and I am just joining you guys virtually just throughout this summer, dissecting this amazing book called The Self-Driven Child. It's the science and sense of giving your kids more control over their lives, okay? Don't freak out. It's not what you think it is, okay? This is actually written by William Stixrud, who's like a neuroscientist, and Ned Johnson, who is been a lifelong educator that has gotten into this world of kind of knowing some of the brain research because it definitely impacts how you help kids. So these two guys have come together with a blended science, educational technique. Then they have built this amazing support system for parents in particular to help alleviate the stress of parenting, especially as these kids get older. And the more they fight back, this is explaining the science behind why that's happening and how to help you, like how to help us as parents or educators or employers of young people, whoever you are. This is a really awesome book. I highly encourage you to purchase it. You can get it from libraries if you just want to kind of like dip your toes into this. So I'm just kind of dissecting this in pieces and parts. Each week, 2 chapters a week throughout the summer, and just kind of giving you some things that stood out to me as an educator and as a parent of 2 kids. We have a 9 and a 13-year-old daughters. But we're involved with all kinds of kids because we run Inspirations Academy. So we work with all age groups, all backstories, all different family styles. So this is something that is amazing. And it's actually helping me understand why certain techniques that I've used for years, why they work. Like when people say why, I'm like, I don't really know. It just does. This is proving it. This is the science. So super exciting and encouraging. And this is something that we are intentionally embedding in Inspirations Academy starting this fall. We are going to be teaching the kids about neuroscience. They're going to learn how their brains work. And we're going to be training the parents through this process that's going to directly impact their family and their homeschool world. It should really be empowering, and it should be lifting burdens off everyone's shoulders. Okay, so it's super simple. But it's not what you think. When it says the self-driven child, it does not mean that kids run your house or kids run your schools. They get to do what they want, when they want, how they want. It's not that. It is not that, okay? So their brains aren't developed yet. They're not even fully developed until they're like 30s. So it's not that, okay? So I just want to alleviate, that's not what this is, okay? So I'm talking about chapters 5 and 6. So I kind of been going chapter by chapter every week. You can find all the recaps on our Inspirations Academy YouTube channel if you're just interested to see what the topics are. It does help more people see this, so make sure you're saying hi in the comments, the stars, not stars, there's hearts and thumbs ups and all the, whatever platform you're watching this on, just comment. It helps boost the algorithm and more people find it. All right, so we're going to be talking about chapters 5 and 6 today. So chapter 5 is all about the inner drive, like internal motivation. So that's the goal, right, of all of us. We want to internally motivate these kids so we're not dragging them through it, right? So I'm just going to share some things that stood out to me, which is nothing new because I kind of figured this out early on in education world. But self-motivation is necessary for the long game, right? So you might have kids be compliant, but then you get easily frustrated as soon as you kind of stop managing them and stop directing every move, that they don't do the things that you want them to do, right? So that means that they haven't been self-motivated. They have been just responding out of maybe fear or trying to avoid a punishment or whatever. They're just being compliant. So that's not the goal. That's not the goal that we want in our homes. That's not the goal we want in our education programs. The inner drive that we want our kids to have so that they commit to something and persevere develop their potential, take steps toward living the lives that they want to live. So this is really hard, I think, for parents in particular. As a teacher, it's kind of easy for me to like believe this because they're not in my house, right? This is hard for me as a parent because you want your kids to have the best life. You don't want them to make all the mistakes that you made, right? So this is why we're so passionate and we're so willing to die on the hill, right? We're just so willing to do that because we want what's best for our children. We see the potential in them. So we want to make sure that we're not failing them, right? But in fact, the more we take control of our children and the more that we are mandating. Yes, Amy on. She's 8 o'clock in the morning. She's watching. The more that we are trying to take control, the more we're pushing away, and the more we are actually taking what God has given to them is their uniqueness and the unique plan that God has for them. Right? We don't know the plan, and that's kind of hard as parents, right? So here's something like that has been repeatedly demonstrated for decades. Sticker charts, consequences, and other forms of parental monitoring that are laid on children. So this means that you've made the decision. There's been no talking, right? There's been no conversing with here's why this is in place. Let's talk about pros and cons. If that discussion hasn't happened, that's what this is referring to. Like you have just mandated it, right? If you've laid on the sticker charts, the consequences, and parental monitoring, it actually undermines the inner drive motivation, right? That makes sense. So think about if you've ever been in jobs, or maybe some of your parents, or you've had teachers that have laid it on you and there's been no explanation as to the why. There's been no conversing. There's no relationship building. That's where a lot of the pushback happens, right? So we have to have that conversation. We're trying to help kids motivate themselves and to realize that they have something important to offer to the world. This is so valuable. And this is what, we breathe this into our students at Inspirations Academy. This is what I did for years. This is what good teachers do. We see the potential in a child. Despite the frustrations we might be having with them, we see the potential in them and we breathe it into them every single day, right? They have something important to offer to the world, and it's going to be much better than talking back and cussing out your teacher, things like that, or fighting your mom all the time. But a lot of it is conversing. You have to do the conversing side of this so they can understand the why, so it doesn't feel like a dictatorship. We want to help them learn to run their own lives and seek to make them meaningful. Guys, you have to believe that God has purpose in children. This is what the Bible says. It says it over and over and over. We cannot keep treating these kids as though they don't have purpose as a child. These children do have purpose as a child. They don't wait until they're 30 to get purpose from God. They have purpose now. And this is what this book is not biblical based. I am going to be doing another book club this fall that is biblical based, and it completely ties all this into the Bible. But this is the Bible. This is what the Bible says. So we have to do what the Bible says, right? So if you are a believer in the Bible, open that Bible every day and read it, because it's going to reaffirm all of this stuff is true. Your children have purpose. That's what the inner drive is. We have to keep reminding them God has a purpose for them as a 5-year-old. God has a purpose for them as a 12-year-old. God has a purpose for them at 18. They all have purpose. We just have to make sure we're reminding them of that. So rewarding them things for that, like extrinsically, like we're rewarding them for a grade or other achievements. Like this is kind of what's celebrated in the traditional world. That's what gets celebrated, right? So we're celebrating achievements, but actually what that proves is it actually lowers performance, crushes creativity, and leads to bad behavior, like a willingness to cheat on a test or take performance-enhancing drugs. We've all heard those stories. We've witnessed them. I've battled that, when I was stuck in a traditional system of having to give them traditional grades, right? So anyway, they're going to devise ways to get the reward without doing the job. So this is super eye-opening. said this is why kids can get A's in courses they hardly remember after a few months. So this is me. Guys, I was that student. I was that student. I knew how to get the A. I knew how to get the A. I didn't question it. I just got the A. It's not like I remembered all the things I learned in that class. It's like it was a very temporary memory. I knew how to study for tests. I knew the techniques and how to memorize things, plug them into a test, and as soon as that test in class was over, it was out. Unless it was something applicable and meaningful, it was out, which is why I feel like I'm relearning a lot of this content as we are embedding it in Inspirations Academy. Learning is a more important goal in school than obtaining good grades. Is that really hard for some of you to swallow? Learning is a more important goal in school than obtaining good grades. Woo! So in other words, their motivation is internal. Okay, so that's kind of what we're all about in the homeschool world, is life learning. You don't stop learning. Like, there is no mastery of content because there's always something more to learn. Always! There's always something more. There is no such thing as I mastered this or I mastered that. I mastered English. I got an A+. I mastered math this year. I got an A+. There's no such thing. There's always more. There's always more to learn. It's toxic to teach kids that that's the end, that they've reached the top. There is no such thing as top in learning, okay? So this is all about promoting a growth mindset. Here's what they say about that. Promoting a growth mindset is one of the best ways to improve your child's sense of control, to foster their emotional development, and to support their academic achievement. So this is why kids when I was a traditional teacher and I had kids labeled as gifted and talented, like that, they go through these testings in second grade and their IQs and all this kind of stuff. And then they get labeled as gifted and talented. That's a toxic label. It's a toxic label. All kids are gifted and talented. So when these kids came to me, I didn't treat them as anything different. They were just students, and I just challenged them just like I did every other student. Every kid got challenged. I met every kid where they were. And it was really frustrating for them as third graders coming in, because all of a sudden it wasn't easy. And they were panicking. Guys, the statistics on kids who are labeled as gifted and talented and go through the traditional school system being treated as such, and then they go into college, the statistics are scary, very frightening, with self-harm, suicide, dropout. The rates are incredibly high with those kids because they've never experienced struggle. They don't have the mindset of growth mindset. So anytime that they hit a barrier for the first time, they don't know how to go through it. We need the kids to struggle with us. They need to struggle while they're under the protective care of us as their parent, as their teachers. Like, they need to struggle. If they aren't struggling, we're not doing our job right? And it's productive struggle. There's difference to stressful struggle. There's good stress and bad stress. Not all struggle is good. Okay, but you as the parent, you know your child best. Teachers get to know your children pretty well. We spend a lot of time with them, very intimate time. But you know your child best. You know if your kid truly is not capable of doing something yet, or they're scared. They're scared to fail. That is the number one problem we have at Inspirations Academy, is fear of failure. That's the number one problem. So how do you help a child develop a healthy dopamine system? So this goes into all the neuroscience stuff. They're talking about dopamine, sculpting a motivated brain, things like that. But the dopamine is kind of what drives that internal motivation, okay? It's the dopamine, okay? It's this chemical that goes through your brain that makes everything else react in a positive way. So the answer is simple. Encourage them to work hard at what they love. And guys, when they're young, and if you don't expose them to a variety of things and give them a variety of experiences, let them taste a lot of different kinds of content, if we don't do that, they don't know what they love. They think they just love video games. Or they just, I don't know, like they don't know. We kind of have to be intentional about giving them lots of opportunity to plug into different kinds of content and not limiting them to what the world says the 6-year-olds are supposed to do at 6. Like, the world doesn't know your child. You know your child, right? You know, okay? So don't be so scared and fearful to not conform to the grade and the age specific standards that the world has defined for you, right? So don't be scared to say, you know what? God gave me this kid. I'm the parent. I know what's best. I know that my kid needs to be exposed to more than just what it says on those 6-year-old standards. You know that, right? So help your kid explore different things. Point out to them, wow, I noticed that you really loved building that electronic Lego machine. That's called engineering. Maybe that's something we should explore more. Let's go grab some books on that. You have to kind of talk it into them. It doesn't mean you have to be a creative parent. Guys, you are creative. We were born in God's image. We're all creative. We were born that way. You were taught to not be creative by the world. The world is uncreative. You creatively you. That's not a word. It doesn't matter. Okay, so the world has taught you to not be creative. You were born to be creative and innovative. That's biblical, okay? We were born in God's image. God is the most creative being. Look what he created. We were created in that image. You are creative. Okay, you have to tell that to yourself. Read the Bible. It tells it to you over and over and over again. So here's something that's super cool. This goes into the brain research. If a child can visualize himself accomplishing a goal he has chosen for himself, it actually tricks the brain into thinking he's already done it. So here's neuroscience. The brain does not know the difference between something that's fake and something that's real. So this is why your body reacts to scary movies. We know the scary movie is fake, but my heart still races and all the things and the poltergeist movies. Like, guys, why do I do that to myself? I watched the poltergeist movies as a teenager over and over and over again. I could not sleep, even though I knew it was fake. Like, isn't that weird? Your brain doesn't know. So this is where, like, in coaching techniques, when they say close your eyes and visualize the ball going in the basket, visualize making that perfect pitch. Like, visualization is huge because it's connected to brain science. You're actively training your brain and creating neural pathways where you want your neurons to flash through and flash down when you're actually in the real moment. Okay, we're going to be diving into this more in the fall. So will our Inspirations Academy students. They're going to be learning all about this. So that's the inner drive chapter. So let me go ahead and fast forward here. It goes into a lot of stuff, all these different scenarios, all these different styles of personalities of children, how to handle it. Read chapter 5. Chapter 6 is so amazing. I was like, to me, this is kind of mind-blowing. It's called Radical Downtime. So deep resting of the brain is considered radical downtime. Radical downtime allows you to process a backlog of stimuli. So then it goes into daydreaming, the benefits of daydreaming. Let's see. It says unfocused downtime that activates the default mode network is absolutely critical for a healthy brain. It links it to all the research. There's this whole big list. You can dive into this deep if you want to. They provide all the resources, okay? We need to be more intentional about downtime now that stimulation is everywhere. So this is literally building this into your homeschool plan. So as I'm going to be coaching families, especially if you're new to homeschooling, or like maybe it felt really uncomfortable last year, or you're like, I've tried the homeschooling, it's not working. I've heard that a lot, okay? Or I feel like I'm failing my children. I'm not doing enough, right? So I'm here for you. We're going to be coming together, creating these plans, but building in the radical downtime. It's backed by science. Like, we have to do it, right? We have to build this in because it's actually letting the brain process all the stimuli of the day, make connections, problem solve, creatively think, being proactive. All those things are happening in the brain during that daydreaming phase, okay? So this goes into some more of the mindfulness. They do talk about transcendental meditation. I don't know super much about that, but I'm really curious about that. I'm going to reach out to some people, some professionals that would probably be able to help us coach our students, because it sounds amazing, and it sounds like there's a lot of research behind meditation. Now, meditation, guys, is not religious. It's not about faith. It's not about praying over entities or anything like that. It's about controlling your thoughts, and controlling your thoughts to control your behaviors. So that's what it's all about, and it sounds super simple. So chapter 6 is kind of short. It's about mindfulness, daydreaming, the power of daydreaming. Anyway, so I'll see you again here next Tuesday, 8 a.m., talking about chapter 7, which is called sleep. I think that's a very big problem for kids and adults. We are too busy. Our schedules are too full, guys. Too full. Chapter 8 is called Taking a Sense of Control to School. Okay, so that's going to be next week's 7 and 8. Join me next week. If you have not purchased this book, The Self-Driven Child, no, that's backwards. The Self-Driven Child. I know it was on a flash sale actually on Amazon last week, so I got a parent to text me that. So buy the book. You're going to want to mark through it or get it from your library. They have a website. They have a podcast. I just want to plug you into some science that is going to help change you with your home. If you're having some conflicts with your family, your kids at home, or there's conflicts with your kids at schools, whatever it is, we're here to help and just direct you to the right resources. Okay, we'll see you next Tuesday.